Mr. Max DaCosta, please cover your mouth. So we're here talking about Elysium.
Is the movie Elysium racist? Well, Alex Jones sure seems to think so. And this is my response video to Alex Jones' claim that Elysium is racist. So, why would he say something like that? And he talked about a lot of different topics, not just one element of the racism. He talked about the mark of the beast concept. It's almost like a branding on your arm, and you need that to like get things. So, for example, like today where you need a passport, birth certificate, government-issued ID, imagine that this branding is the equivalent. So think about trying to go to a hospital and you don't have the branding, which declares you a citizen, supposedly. They could decline to give you care because you don't have the branding. And there's a situation in the movie where that actually happens. Someone goes in, tries to get care, and, oh, no brand, you're not a citizen, so good luck, So that's one thing, and that's not really racism. That's kind of getting on the whole conspiracy theory, which I think is more than a conspiracy because they're actually in the process of doing RFID testing right now. There are people who have actually already chipped themselves voluntarily so they can get like VIP access in clubs. I mean, really, you're going to put a chip in me and I'm going to be all excited. Oh, I can get in the club. They scanned me. But that's one thing, but it's not racism. I think the racism he's talking about, he says how they make the quote-unquote white people in the movie look bad and evil. Devils, they're so evil. Why would Alex Jones say such a thing? Well, frankly, because all of the so-called white people in this movie are bad people. They seem to be very evil. They don't seem to care much about their fellow man, this elitist society. And I mean, just like if you saw my little skit that I did where I was kind of like, cover your mouth, don't breathe in my office with your filth, That was something that was said by my character, John Carlyle. The character, John Carlyle, at one point made a comment. Imagine the way you would speak about a dirty dog. Someone has a dog in your office, and the dog stinks, and he's, like, sitting on the furniture, and that kind of stuff. Like, he made a comment towards a human in that same sense, where it's kind of like, breathing out your filth in my presence. Not a very nice thing to say. Very inhumane. And the Secretary of Defense was kind of the same thing. And I can't say there was anyone who would be regarded as so-called white in the movie that seemed to be a good person. So maybe that's why Alex Jones thinks the movie is racist. But his whole theory falls apart when he mentions the other side of the equation. If the so-called white people are evil, who are the good people in the movie? Oh, the Hispanics. He says the Hispanics are great in this movie. They're the great people, good people. And the so-called whites are the evil ones. Well, so let's analyze that a little bit. So Mr. Alex Jones is trying to say to us that good people are people who deal in, illegal arms dealing, drug dealing, and also theft. I mean, the Hispanics in the movie are thieves, drug dealers, arms dealers, and who knows whatever else that they're doing. I mean, it seems to be in gangs and things like that. I mean, you go into this area where it's like, imagine Boys in the Hood type of scenario. I mean, they've got this kind of a underground clubhouse type of scenario with guys with guns outside, and you go inside and it looks like, one of the main characters seems like he's a hacker. He's got all these computers and stuff, and he's like plugged into the system. And I mean, all illegal activity. I mean, there's forgery as well. They seem to be forging the ID system where you're branding on the arm. So forgery as well. Forgery, theft, drugs, and illegal weapons. So that is what Mr. Alex Jones regards as good people. There is a speck of potential truth to what he's saying in just that the so-called white people in the movie are one-dimensional. They're bad people, they seem to be. Very elitist, very snobby, very don't breathe on me type of people, but there's nothing else to them. I don't remember seeing any other side to any of them. They just seem to be like, that's what they are and that's it. That's the same way that Elysium, the whole place, Elysium being the space station, that's how that whole place was. It's a one-dimensional thing. You hardly see much of it in the movie. It's all about Los Angeles and what's happening in Los Angeles. So the whole Elysium space station itself is hardly seen. The people in there are very one-dimensional. You don't see much of what goes on and how life is up there. It's all about one thing. Elysium is one thing. An elitist society isolated from the rest of humanity. That's all it is. That's nothing else to it. The people there, very one-dimensional. So if you look at it that way, then you can look at it and say, well, okay, so the Hispanics, you're doing all these bad things or whatever, But like the main character, he has got a good background. He's trying to do the right thing, and essentially, he will do something that's pretty big in terms of good points, getting a lot of good points for what he did. I mean, he did an ultimate thing in the movie. I don't want to say too much. So, okay, he's got a redeeming quality to him. And the rest of the people in the movie, even the gangsters, they didn't seem like they were that bad per se. It was kind of gangsters where you feel like, if you show them the right respect and stuff like that, you could actually kind of wander through their hood and not get shot. Now the bad guy, the antagonist, the mercenary, he's the guy I wouldn't want to be anywhere near him. I mean, he seems like you just throw a grenade out in the crowd just for fun. So he's an exception. He's real whack job. But the gangsters and stuff, they don't seem that dangerous. Now don't get me wrong. I definitely see them shooting you in a second if you went there and like said something stupid, I hate Hispanics or something like that. I could see you getting shot real fast. But again, they seem like the kind of gangsters that you could kind of, just respect them and watch how you tread around them, and you might be okay. So maybe that's what Alex Jones referring to as good, but not really. I think that kind of good is like Al Capone giving out turkeys during Thanksgiving. I mean, maybe he just cut off 2 guys' heads, but he gave some turkey to some children, so now he's a nice guy. Not so much. I don't know what standard that Alex Jones uses to regard people as good or bad, but I think it's a pretty bad one if he thinks that the representation that Hispanics got in the movie was good. There's only really one good person in the entire movie, ultimately, and that is the love interest. I mean, this woman who the main character was in love with. I mean, she's not only beautiful, but she is such a darling. I mean, her personality seems to be so genuine. I mean, she's a nurse, so her whole career is all about, helping people. She's got this adopted child, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, really great person. I didn't see anything negative about her at all. I mean, there's a point where she kind of does a little silly thing in the end in terms of how she's trying to elicit help from the main character, but that's besides the point. Seems to be a good person, and she was Hispanic. Now, as far as the main character, Mr. DeMarco, I think his name was, he seems to be, in a way, like the whole Trayvon Martin thing, right? He seems to be, in a way, like...
Comment below and share the video. Thanks for watching.